Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of Stop, Look, and Listen, the Winthrop Alumni Edition. I'm your host, LaTroy Gardner. This week, we're going to pay tribute to a friend, a mentor, a philanthropist, a scholar athlete, a softball Hall of Famer, our good friend, Janiva Willis. And to help me do this, I have her loved ones. I have her mom, Miss Kathy Silvea. We have her softball coach at Winthrop University, former head coach and Hall of Famer, Mark Cooke. And we have one of her closest friends and teammates and road buddies, Sheree Bussey, but I know her as Sheree Gibbs. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, so like I say, we tragically lost Janiva 5 years ago, and I felt this was the opportune time to revisit her story. So, Miss Kathy, Janiva grew up in Irishtown, New Brunswick, Canada. Just tell us about little Janiva growing up.
Well, little Janiva growing up, she was quite active, doing her schoolwork, but other than schoolwork, she was always involved in sports. You name it, she played it. Softball, soccer, volleyball, basketball. She was on the go ever since, I think she could hold one of them balls in her hand. But yeah, in Irishtown, you would always find her at the community center or at the school.
Okay. So did she have like older cousins and siblings that she would try to beat competitively at these sports?
She had two older brothers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, two older brothers, but she was always focused in whatever she did, and they always included her, which was, a good thing too. But there were a lot of kids in the community that were involved in the sports and things, so she kind of used to compete pretty much against the neighborhood and against her school and stuff. She always felt she needed to be included. She always kept busy, so she loved sports.
Mm-hmm. So, like, what sort of principles and morals did you instill in her that sort of helped her blossom into this amazing individual that we came to love and adore so much?
I always told her to always believe in herself. And whenever she started something, it was from start to finish. She never quit in the middle. Whatever she committed to, she needed to stay committed until whatever she was doing was done.
Okay. And when did she discover her passion for softball? When did that become her main focus from an athletic standpoint?
Oh my goodness, she always loved softball. But I think it was when she got to high school and she was being approached by universities to go play soccer, go play basketball. Her love was softball. She got picked up here in Irishtown to play on the provincial team. And she, traveled all over Atlantic Canada and all over Canada, actually. So she was also approached there at tournaments as well for softball. So then when she went for tryouts for the Canada National Ladies team. And once she got picked for that team and being one of the youngest that was picked, she was there was no turning back. So she said she wanted to go, well, when she was probably in grade 7, she told me one day she wanted to play softball. She wanted to go to university to play softball, and she wanted to go to the United States.
Okay, Coach Cooke, I guess that's where you come in. How did Jay come across your radar as a potential recruit?
Well, they back then they sent us VCRs, and I didn't get the first one. I couldn't find the first one. I called and got a second one. Was very interested in her because of her athleticism. So I called her high school coach, Coach Bouchard, and he said she's not just he said she's the fastest player in school. And I said, I always want the fastest girl. He said, no, the fastest kid in school. And, you know, I hear all kind of crazy stuff, but that was true. That kid could fly. And got her down here, got her for a visit, and I just fell in love with her, with what she is, what she was. She was complete when I got her. I didn't have to teach her anything. Her grades were always good. She was very respectful. She fit in down here. She was a member of my family. Both my sons thought she was their big sister. And my favorite story on her is I took my youngest son, he's about 5, with me on a recruiting trip, and we went to Canada. And I told him that things were different up there than they were in the United States. And I was talking about kilometers and the money. And we get to the field just in time, and Jay is down on the probably 75 yards away, looking down the aisle toward us, and Noah sees her, and he takes off running. She grabs him and fakes like she's going to put him in the trash can like she always did down here. And he screamed so much that all the field stopped to see what was going on. So I was pretty excited because that's the love they had for that young lady. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. So,
and then she started this ritual at my house. On every Thanksgiving, for Canadian Thanksgiving, we had all the Canadians out. I had 6 or 7 at the time. And after she graduated and had a job, she sent Tupperware to get her Canadian Thanksgiving meal for my wife. So she's a smart young'un. Don't get anybody tell you different. She knew how to get what she wanted.
Sounds like Sheree, you sort of helped her get some Thanksgiving from the cook.
Yes. So I know, like, as far as cooking goes now, when we moved in together, we would take turns on each other learning how to cook. And my favorite dish from Jay was her curry chicken and her rice, and she would call her dad. She would call her dad for the recipe, but that was the best recipe ever. But she would come home with us for holidays when she wouldn't be able to go to Canada. Me and Sharada usually took turns taking her home with us for whatever break we had. So yes, we got to spend a lot of holidays together, Thanksgiving, Christmases, all of that. So she definitely blended in, like Coach Cooke said, to families, just period. She was welcomed by everyone.
Okay. Miss Kathy, did Jay ever really experience homesickness to your knowledge?
Yes, the first year she went down there. After being there, I'm going to say maybe 3 weeks. She was calling like every day, sometimes a few times a day, saying, I think I want to come home. And I went, well, you're not just around the corner. You need to stick it out. I said, stick it out until Christmas. And then by Christmas, because she was coming home at Christmas, by Christmas, if you still don't like it, this is the one thing I'll allow you to quit. So she came home at Christmas and she says, no, Mom, I like it. I'm going back. Well, when she first got down there, she didn't know anybody, and she was finding it hard to make friends because she doesn't go to you. But if you approach her, she would talk to you, but she would never initially, if you ask her a question, she would answer you, but she wouldn't go into a deep conversation. She needed to feel comfortable with you first. So when she got in with Sheree and Sherada, then she felt like she was home. And she, Mom, I got these roommates, because, well, I think she had 2 different roommates, right, Sheree, prior to that? When she first got there, she thought she was going to be on campus close to where she goes to get her classes. But she was 45 minutes from her actual classes that she had to walk. She had no vehicle, she had no bicycle, she had nobody to drive her. So that was frustrating. She was always rushing, and that was just stressing her right out. Being rushing there and then rushing from there to try and get something to eat before she went to softball practice. And then she ended up with another roommate that I guess dated quite a bit. So there was always a lot going on in that apartment. So then finally when she went out to softball, she hooked up with Sheree and Sherada, and the rest is history. They became
so funny.
They became.
I was going to say is, yes, it's funny because I did the same thing to my mom. I remember my mom had an 800 number at her job, and I was blowing that thing up because I was so sick. I was so sick the first 3 weeks too. And my mom's like, you just got to make friends. And then, so it was like, once we did connect, we started leaning on each other, and then we had a lot of fun. Yeah. Apparently that showed more in my grades than anybody else. So once we linked up, and I was the one that had the car, so then it made, like, everybody piled in my car. we would make it everywhere. Yeah, that 1 year old dorms, then they hooked up and got an apartment. Look out.
So Sheree, I remember your class coming in to Winthrop. I think it was 2001.
Yep, 2001.
Yeah, so I mean, it sort of mirrored my crew because it was a bunch of us, and it was a brotherhood. And with yourself and Sherada and Janiva and Jaquana and Aisha and others, like, you formed a sisterhood. You rolled together.
We did.
One another. So just tell me this: like, within each individual crew, everyone has a role. What was Jay's?
Jay actually was probably the most level-headed one. She was the calm in the storm, right? Like, she was the calm in the storm. Because she didn't drink. She didn't, so she actually was like, she was like the big sister of the crew, even though we were all the same age, if you will. I mean, she was just, we all had to balance each other, right? Like, if I was going to be the one that's going to dance all night and be crazy and, and so that might pull more of that out of those, out of them, where they might have normally been a wallflower, then they're dancing with me now because they're not going to let me dance by myself, and so, but Jay would bring us all the way back down, or Sherada was more of the dance routine, or always dressing up, or and that kind of thing. So we just kind of fed off of each other. We just all had, like you said, we all played our role. It just worked. It really just worked.
Okay. All right. So Coach Cooke, you mentioned earlier about the relationship you had with Jay. Like, just speak from the standpoint of being a coach and bringing these freshmen and transfers in to your program, and they're away from their family, and you're like the father figure. Just talk about the responsibility you feel you have to uphold to the parents.
Well, it's always been a family with me at Winthrop. We all took care of each other. They were all at my house on Easter and Canadian Thanksgiving. And it was sort of one of those things where I needed them as much as they needed me. Because, I mean, you know, if you're coaching a college sport, you got to have those kids on board and believing in what you're doing. And it's a big relationship there.
Okay, so
Are you still hearing me?
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll tell you my favorite story on Jay and playing ball. We were playing at North Carolina A&T. We were playing a doubleheader, and Jay was crying. I said, Jay, why are you crying? And she sniffled tears. My boyfriend broke up with me. And I'm standing in the batter's box next to her and the umpire. And I say, Jay, any man that doesn't want to be your boyfriend is just dumb as heck. You don't need him. So that day she hit 3 home runs. So after the game, the coach, Mamie Jones, who loved Jay to death, walked over to me and she said, Cooke, I'm going to tell you 2 things. First off, don't you ever talk to Jay like that again. And second, what'd you tell her? Because she hit bombs, and she wanted to know if I had a secret weapon up there. And Jay just loved it. I guess the biggest thing I'll tell you about her is she was so composed. We went to the NCAA Women Top 10 banquet up in, I think it was in...
it was in Indiana.
I believe it was.
Yeah.
And I have never been so proud of a young lady. She was poised. She was in control. She knew what she was doing. And I sat there and watched a fluid young lady that understood her way in life. And she was invited back to Winthrop to speak at convocation. And she called me on the phone. She said, I'm scared to death. I'm worried. I said, don't worry. I'll sit in one of the first 3 rows, and I'll have my camera on my phone. And when you get to stuttering or something, I'll put my camera on so you'll know where I am. And she looked at me and said, oh, I feel so much better. She never looked at me a single time, because once she started talking, that young lady could talk out to yin yang. And all the professors loved that fact that she was able to walk up there and just do what had to be done.
And do you know that she never, and do you know that she started to write her speech for that? And she couldn't find the words to write down. So she called me the same day and told me she was scared to death. She also called me the same day she had the game where she broke up with her boyfriend, and she was crying to me.
Oh.
But the day she went to speak at Winthrop, she said that she started to write something down, and she said, I just couldn't put it into words. She said, I didn't have enough time to really put it together. So I said, you'll be fine, Janiva. I said, once you stand up there and you speak from the heart, it'll just flow out. So she called me after she was done, and she said that was exactly what she did. She got up and she spoke from the heart. And she said, Mom, I had a standing ovation. Well, I've seen her do it.
She did a great job at that convocation.
I've seen her do it here. I've seen her speak here, and she had nothing in writing in front of her, and she just got up and she spoke from the heart.
Well, I don't know if you knew it. She had 3 little girls.
So she must have called us all, like to pull
children's
inspiration from us all.
And she took them everywhere with her.
Too.
And they kept riding their bicycles on my brand new concrete, hit the brakes, and leaving black skid marks. So I told Jay, I said, Jay, I don't want skid marks on my concrete. She said, okay, Coach. So I kid you not, she went back about 35 feet and she laid down rubber the whole way. And I said, Jay. She said, Coach, it'll wash off in the rain. I said, okay. One of the little girls got adopted while Jay was in Canada at the National Women's Tryout. And she was so scared that she'd never see Jay again. So I called Jay up there. I called the coach from the Olympic team, and I said, look, this is what's happening. I really need to speak to Janiva. So he was very nice. He went and got Janiva, and that little girl just cried, I'll never see you again. And she said, I promise you, as soon as I get back, I'll come see you. And she did. That's the kind of person that she was. She attracted people. And if you've never seen that smile, you can't appreciate that smile.
Yeah.
She could light a room up, and she could make somebody that was in a bad mood happy. And she had a special nickname to me, which I will not use, but she's the only one ever allowed to use that nickname to me.
Sheree, you were
We
saying?
actually felt that she was our daughter down here. My wife and I felt like she was part of the family. She acted like part of the family. And like I say, the Tupperware still, until we quit having Canadians, was still the thing to do. And Stephanie Reed, another Canadian, picked up on it. I mean, we had
Do
to
you
cook
still
enough
do
for
a Canadian
extra 5 people for all
Thanksgiving
the
now?
Tupperware.
Coach, you still do a Canadian Thanksgiving now?
I don't coach college anymore, and I didn't have any Canadians at the end. But I still know when it is.
Okay. Yeah.
I liked it because that time I got turkey and dressing, I got mashed potatoes, and I got corn and green beans. And Carrie Woolridge Moore,
Okay.
she knew what it was too, because she would make sure she was here for both of them. So Jay had more friends here than I did. I'll just tell you that up front. And she knew more people here than I did.
All right,
And
so
you'd be surprised at how many people would come to watch her play just because who she was. And every coach at South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee knew Janiva. And I'm sure they were doing like I do. They counted down how many batters they had to face before they got to Janiva.
So how was she as a teammate, Sheree?
I mean, very inspiring. She definitely made you want to compete. Like, you know, Coach talking about being the fastest. I always thought I was the fastest, so we was gonna have to go at it. I will never forget my first home run came after a very bad error, but I will never forget it because I'm a little person. So in practice, I had never hit a home run because usually it's off soft toss and off of pure strength. I'm never getting one out, like ever. It was always like I needed a fast pitcher so it could ricochet off my bat to go. But I will never forget her teasing me because my first home run, she said, "Girl, did you hear that scream you did when you did it?" And I was like, "No." Because they were all shocked because they'd never seen me hit one, and it was so funny. But she would uplift you when you were down. She'd hype you up when you were up. So she was just a great teammate. She wanted everybody to be just as good, if not better than her. Like, she wanted us all playing at that level. So she made you better.
Yeah, she did.
So was there a reason behind her choosing the number 15?
Was that question for me?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was something she always had. Mama Kathy, does she always have 15? Can she hear us? Did we lose her?
I guess not. Well, is the number retired, Coach Cooke?
Yes, it is. And we named a building after her.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's run through her accolades. So she received 2 degrees from Winthrop, got her BA in Applied Science in 2005 and her master's in social work in 2008. She was a 2005 academic All-American third team, 2005 Arthur Ashe Scholar recipient, 4-year All-Big South, NCAA South Carolina Woman of the Year in 2005, and a top 10 finalist for NCAA Woman of the Year. Played on the Canadian national team in 2005 and 2007. So, wow. Bravo.
Yep.
I wish I could take credit for that, but I can't. That belongs to Kathy. Because I got her, she was
That's
finished.
a lot, right? In 33 years, that's a lot.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's a lot. You had a big influence on her there, Mark, the last time she went.
All I can tell you is that I had nothing to ever correct her on for manners, discipline, respect, and it was just unbelievable, her character. I just could not believe that an 18-year-old could be that mature.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's get into her professional life, becoming a social worker, and when did she start developing this sense of responsibility to give back to the youth?
After her second year of university. Because here growing up in Irish Town, she did not have the patience for kids. No, she did not have the patience for kids. She, when she went to university, she wanted to be a kinesiologist. She wanted to get into sports medicine. So first year went fine. The second year went fine. So I think what kind of encouraged her is when you had to do volunteer work. Like if you were playing on a sports team, you had to do volunteer work. So what she started to do was go to the elementary schools in South Carolina and read to kids. And I think that's where her passion came from, was just seeing the smiles on those kids with her reading to them. And then she would, she became a big sister to some kids, and she would take them to a basketball game or take them to the movies. And I think that's when she decided she needed to change her career. But it shocked me because, like I said, she did not have patience for kids.
Well, I'll tell you this. She was my wife's favorite coming to read to those kids in her class. They enjoyed her so much.
Yeah.
She didn't
And I
just
think
read.
she was coming
She
across.
laughed with them and joined in with them. I'd come in and she'd be sitting down on the floor playing roughhouse games with them. They just really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I saw a difference in her. Saw a difference in her too when she used to come home to visit with her nieces. It was a totally different Janiva that I remember when it came to kids, like carrying on with the kids and things like her own age and stuff like that, but she never really paid much attention to the younger children. But when she used to come home for a visit, I mean, it was all about Auntie JJ. And to her, it was all about her nieces, you know, hanging out and going wrestling in the grass or going out and racing each other and playing games. And actually, the first time she came home, I think there was 3 grandchildren at the time. The first time she came home for any length of time, we actually had a camp out in the living room. We put the mattresses on the floor, and it was girls only. So Grampy had to sleep in the bedroom by himself. It was girls only. It was me and Janiva, and there was 3 of the grandchildren, because we have all granddaughters. So it was 3 of the grandchildren. All 3 of them wanted to sleep with her. All 3 of them wanted to be beside her.
Well, they played football in my living room.
Yeah, she was just a magnet, and not just to adults. She could transform herself from having a conversation with an adult to talking to a kid, and that kid could understand her. She just had that way about her.
I had to explain to her who the Pied Piper was from the children's books, because those kids followed her around like little ducklings.
Oh my goodness.
And I think once she became the big sister, because one thing about Janiva was, she was very compassionate. And I think once she started to hear some other people's stories, and maybe their upbringing wasn't the same, it really did strike a nerve. Like, it was like, well, when you're with me, then you're going to get this treatment, or, you know, this type of experience. And I think that's what kept driving her, because I do remember when she was in social work, like, she would be really touched by those children, and she felt like, you know, I have to do something. I have to improve lives, touch lives, inspire them any kind of way. And that's really what I think, it's the stories behind the children. And when she just understood, like, you know, there are some really sad stories out there, and the compassion for them was so huge.
Was there a sense of frustration that Janiva experienced as far as being a social worker, as far as the limitations and the flaws in the system? Did you ever convey that to any of you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know for me, she was just like, we get them out of the system, and then it's, you know, then they go right back. She was really frustrated, and that's what drove her to even start her nonprofit. Like, that's really what drove it, because she was like, there has to be something better than this.
Yeah.
Because this is a cycle.
Yeah. They were only allowed to keep them in the system for so long, which for some it worked. But for a lot of kids, it didn't work. They needed more one-on-one time. They needed someone there for them. And a lot of the times they were just bounced from within the system, from one agency to another. So they were, you know, always with a different agency. And you don't know, not all agencies were the same.
She was frustrated with the paperwork system because she had to do all the paperwork all the time, and nothing ever got done. She'd turn it in, it would just sitting on a file somewhere. So she was very, very frustrated with that. When she got her first job, I was terrified, because she would have to go to downtown Charlotte to pick up a kid at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So I told her, Jay, just call me. I'll ride with you. And she just looked me in the eye and said, I don't need any help. I've been trained for this. How many people are going to catch me from behind? She was right.
Yeah.
So she had her own agenda, and what she wanted didn't matter. What mattered was what she wanted to do, and she had her mind set on something, and she could take care of it.
So would you say that her frustration with the limitations in the profession, and then, as you mentioned earlier, Coach Cooke, with her conquering that fear of delivering a convocation address, do you think that was a turning point for her feeling confident enough to start her own nonprofit organization?
Well, she came to me after a convocation and said, Coach, I know what I want to do. And I said, what, Jay? She said, I want to speak to kids, and I want to help them. And me getting in front of all these people, I know what terror is, and I can help them understand it's okay to be scared. And that, to me, was the turning point. She made that decision. And once Jay makes a decision, you know, you're never going to get out of her way.
Ms. Kathy, did she speak to you about leaving her job with youth villages and having this idea to start the Nemo group and I Dream in Colors?
Yeah, she did. I told her she was crazy.
I'm so glad that I was not. We did too, Miss Kathy. We was like,
I said,
a state job?
That's right. You are leaving. You are leaving a solid income. And, you know, with the award that you received, like internationally, like 1%, you just received an award. Do you honestly think that, you know, you're not going to have your job tomorrow? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you thinking? Do you have money put away? Can you afford to do this? What are you going to do? Like, so no, Mama got this. No, Mama got this. And I think what a lot of it was too, she spoke to some other people and tried to like form a group kind of thing. And she was pretty confident that these people were going to help her. Like everybody that was on board with her was going to help her. And she had a rude awakening. But she was still determined. She did not care. This was her dream. And she was going to fulfill it. She didn't care who was behind her and who wasn't. So, you know, as a mother, I told her, you know, of all the responsibilities and all that stuff. I said, but regardless of what you decide, I'm behind you 100% and will help you in any way I can. And you know, financially, I can't be there financially, but any other, like, I'm there to support you. If this is your passion, this is what you want to do. I said, but all I'm asking you to do is to think more about it. But like Coach Cooke said, when she got something in her head that she was going to do, she did it. And if there was consequences to pay, she would gladly take on those consequences and say, yes, that was a mistake. But she had no fear. She had no fear.
When she made this decision, she was in my office telling me about it. I got up and I wrote her a check and I said, Jay, I don't approve. I don't want you to do this, but nobody is going to write you that first check but me. She said, Coach, I didn't come ask you for money. I said, I know you didn't, but I'm your first. Remember that. And she just looked at me and grinned and said, I'll always remember that.
Yeah.
So she hit me up for $100 before I even knew which way it was going.
I will say, I think that's probably one of the best things that I could have ever done, was because I was like Miss Kathy, like me and Sheree, I don't know if we were on three-way. I don't know how we were all together, but you know, we were like thinking just from a practical standpoint, you know, like, is this really practical? You know, like, but we didn't want to like kill it. So we were like, okay, well, this is what you want to do. Like, we're here for you. But I think in our minds, we were like, really? And so I will never forget, because especially in those couple, like those later years, like right there at the end, she was doing so much, like, you know, in magazines and on the local news stations and stuff like that. And I do remember our last conversation was, she had called because she thought she was, at the time I lived in Warner Robins, which is south of Atlanta, but going towards Florida. And she had called and she's like, hey, I'm going to come through Atlanta. I know you're on like the other, but she was actually talking about going towards Alabama. And I said, no, I'm not on that side. And then she was telling me about the route they were going to take. And then when she was like, I'm going to come back through the like Savannah and Macon. And I was like, oh, well, then if you come that way, y'all can stop by the house. And, you know, we were just talking and I was like, you know, I said, Jay, when you told us about this, we thought you were crazy, but I was like, I'm so proud you just listened to us, you know, like I was just like, I'm so proud that you just kept doing it. And I'm so grateful for that moment and that conversation that I was able to tell her that. I was probably, I'm like, I told my mom, I was like, I'm just so happy that that moment could have happened before she passed, because I'd have felt bad.
Yeah.
Founders Federal Credit Union is a proud sponsor of our communities and the GOB Radio Network, offering a wide range of products and services from online and mobile banking to financial education. Founders provides all the perks of a big bank without losing the personal hometown feel. Not a member? Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of their local offices to see if you qualify for membership. Dr. Todd McLean provides periodontal and dental implant services in 2 convenient locations. They offer over a decade of experience treating patients, and appointments can even be scheduled in the evenings, weekends, or early mornings. Give them a call in Chapel Hill at 919-537-9774 or in Durham at 919-484-8338 or visit them online at gumsandimplants.org.
Yeah, so the I Dream in Colors nonprofit organization was a commitment to providing positive life opportunities, mentoring, academic and life support to youth from low socioeconomic backgrounds. Sheree pretty much just walked us into it. Let's talk about the Dream Challenge Tour. The fact that she was gonna bike across country in 78 days, covering nearly 4,000 miles.
Well, I'm going to say, like, at that point, I believe she made me believe in her, because seeing how it had progressed from the beginning up until that point, I had no worries at that point. I was like, she can do whatever. She's made it this far and got this big with it. So it actually didn't even sound crazy to me anymore. Like, I was just like, oh yeah, like, do it. Like, she made me believe in all that at that point. So there was no thought that it wasn't going to happen at that point.
When she said it to me that she was going to ride coast to coast, I was shocked, but it wasn't a surprise, because this was something that Jay would do to raise awareness, and she believed she could do it because she trained for it, she worked hard for it, and heaven forbid we tried to stop her. I wasn't going to be the one to try to stop her. I have a favorite saying as a coach: you are who you are when no one is watching. And I go back to when she was trying out for the Canadian national team and she hurt her knee. One day after practice, I made all my players stand outside my office. You could see the back of the field. We stood up there and watched Jay work out by herself for 40 minutes. And she didn't work out. She pushed herself for 40 minutes. And I told every player on the team right then, I said, if you'll give me that effort every day, nobody will ever beat you. And to this day, I've never had a kid that could work as hard as she could to get what she wanted.
She did the same thing when she came home to heal after she had the operation on her knee.
Okay, so she went cross country, attempted to go cross country from San Diego to Charlotte to raise funds for mentoring initiatives for Charlotte area youth and beyond. And like Sheree was saying, it was picking up a lot of steam from news outlets, magazines. She was clearly getting sponsorships and meeting people, in all the states that she touched down in. I watched a lot of the videos that she posted, when her and Jeffrey, also rest in peace, when they would reach historic landmarks, or if they were hanging out, just partying with the locals. Like, just having those memories, I'm sure Miss Kathy is pretty much everything to you.
Oh, it is. I have them all saved on a USB. I think it is. And yeah, I just followed her when I knew that she was live. Sometimes that was during the day when I was at work. I would take my break. And I go sit in the lunchroom at work, or I go downstairs and I watch her. And I would message her, letting her know that I was there watching her. And then she would speak into her GoPro and say, "Hey, Ma." So I can't even describe the feeling. Like, with so many people watching that, she yelled out to me, just knowing that I was there.
And I'll say too, Miss Kathy made the point earlier, and I know, just like how I described her in college, right? Like, she was very soft-spoken and she wouldn't be the one to initiate, but to watch the evolution of her from where I first met her to, the last couple of years when we got together and hung out, or just watching those videos, like, she really was inserting herself into circles. She really was you know, she had evolved. She was like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was really, really fun to watch her just come into her own in that room.
She did a 360 from just being a shy, humble little girl into a powerful woman, a powerful, inspirational woman. And I mean, I'm her mother, and she inspired me. I mean, the barriers that I've knocked down in the past few years because of watching her, like, you know, through my work, through my church, and it's just, and not seeing it myself, but other people telling me the difference in me. And it was all because of her. It's because, you know, she had a dream and she went for it, and, you know, she just rose above everything. And it's, you know, she didn't have that political background with the financial support to do what she wanted to do. She just went out and did it. And just with the thing, I'll survive day to day. And it's exactly what she did. She survived day to day. And yeah.
Her faith was so strong. Like, her faith was so strong with it. She was like, this is what I'm here to do.
Yep.
And she was steadfast in that.
Yeah. Yep. And there was a comment her and I had one day, and I'll never forget it, because we were talking about, it was before she actually, we talked about her doing this on her own. And she says, Mom, she said, I came to realize this is what God put me on this earth for, is to help kids. Mm-hmm. And I'll die trying. Which is exactly what she did. When I got that phone call, and after my head cleared a bit, that conversation came back to me just like we had just had the conversation. Mm-hmm. Like those words that she spoke. This is what God put me on this earth for, is to change the less fortunate lives of kids, and I'm going to do it, and, you know, and die trying. But yeah.
Well, she did so much in our area that I was no longer Coach Cooke. I was Jay's coach.
Oh.
So, I know how it is. She was one of a kind. The smile would disarm a robber, because she could make you happy if you were not. And when she told me she was going to do this, it was a no-brainer in my world. She was going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing about it, she had no fear. Fear of failure was not in her book.
Right.
No.
Okay, so
and like I say, I didn't give her anything. She was finished when I got her. The only thing I gave her the opportunity to do was play ball and become a member of my family. And she was done when I got her. And I always told her, I said, you know, you're the luckiest kid in the world. You got a great mom, and you got Alan up there supporting you with their hearts and everything they can. And you're just the luckiest kid down here. She said, oh, I know. So if you have not heard her say, oh, I know, you don't understand. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll say Coach Bouchard had a lot to do with it. He came that day down to watch her play. She didn't know it was coming. And when she hit the home run in that game, I know she was fast, but she went and got that ball, I think, before it finished bouncing to give to him. And he was a big influence on her life, too.
Yes, he was, yeah.
Okay, so we all gathered for her memorial at Winthrop, and you all participated in finishing the final leg of the bike tour. Starting off, Miss Kathy, like, what was your emotions that day? Like, once the trip was completed.
I'm not sure I could put it into words. And I tell everybody that today. There's still a lot of people that do not know that I finished that last 30 miles on her bike. Especially after not being on a bike for 43 years. And then it's like, you know what? And I said it right here in my house, in my living room, when they were trying to determine what they were going to do, you know, about her last ride. And I said, you know what? We need to finish it. And I can't remember who I was talking. I was talking to somebody from down there on the phone. And they said, really? And I had one of my brothers sitting in the living room. And he said, and I told them what their plan was. And I said, if they decide to have it, I want to go down there and finish it on her bike. And he looked at me and he said, if that's what you want to do, he said, I'll pay your plane fare to go and finish the ride on her bike. Mm-hmm. And after I thought about it after a while, I was like, oh my goodness, I haven't been on a bike for 43 years. I think I better go and work myself up. So I had a couple of co-workers that got me free membership at the gym. They came and did spin cycle with me every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning at the gym to get me ready to go do that ride. And when I crossed that finish line into that park, I just cried.
Mm-hmm.
And
I cheated. I cried while y'all were gone.
No. And it actually, I think it took a while. I think it actually took getting back home here and actually sitting down and think what I actually just did. I just had so much of her in me at that time. It was, if that was how I wanted to honor her, was finishing that last 30 miles. Because everybody else was going to do it. And then it was like, no, I need to be there. I need to do it, and I need to do it on her bike. If her bike is rideable, then I need to do it on her bike. And that's what I did.
Sheree?
Well, I was 1 week postpartum. I just had my daughter, who I did name after Jay. Like, her name is Savannah Jay. She was not supposed to have a middle name because I don't have a middle name. So she was supposed to be like me, but I said, no, I'd much rather you be like Jay. So I gave her Jay as my middle name. And she wears number 15 in all her sports now. So I will make sure that she knows that she was named after a very important person, and I hope she can be just half of who she was. So she will definitely know about that. It was definitely emotional then, right? Because I was already very hormonal. So I got a picture with Miss Kathy holding the new J of the crew, and I made sure, you know, I know that is something that I talk to my husband about a lot, is that, you know, when I'm at a place where I feel like I can take on more, I would love to continue Jay's dream. I probably won't ever feel right until it happens. It is on my manifestation list to this day. And so I'm still inspired by her every day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about my girl. So.
Well, we made sure her name was immortalized at Winthrop, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We got the building named after her, and it's there for every time a kid walks through on that field, they see her name. Now, some of them don't even know who she is. They're so young, but they can read, and they look at her picture.
Yeah, so she's also like a 2012 inductee into the Winthrop Athletics Hall of Fame, 2018 inductee into the Big South Conference Hall of Fame, and then there's a Janiva Willis Memorial Scholarship in her honor. So, yeah, her name and legacy will indeed live on forever on Winthrop University's campus. How else should we carry on her legacy? Sheree sort of already spoke to that, but I'm interested to hear from Miss Kathy and Coach Cooke as well.
Wow. It's hard to say. She left a legacy here as well. Here in Irishtown where the ball field is. There's her picture is up on the dugout. Well, not in the dugout. It's up on the clubhouse. Coach Cooke, you saw that. She was still alive when we did that. She has so many awards here as well, and in her high school at Harrison Trumbull, there's a lot of kids that the teachers kind of make sure her name is brought up. But I don't know. I think that, like Sheree said, the best way to do it is be there for other kids instead of walking away from them. Like, you know, that it's happening more and more today, but there's more and more help out there today, and yeah, more people need to step up.
Well, those of us that coach learned a long time ago, it's not about the wins and losses. It's about the character of the kids that you build. Well, when you think about Jay, you use her as a prototype. She's a great athlete. She was very, very sociable. She was already a mature young lady when I got her, and she continued all her success. She stayed humble and just happy to be wherever she was. My oldest son, he is like Sheldon on the Big Bang Theory. He talks a language I never understand. And he and Jay always had a verbal banter going on. And it was always something. And I think she would sit up at night thinking of things to say to him. And we just cracked up laughing when they were together, because he enjoyed picking on her and she enjoyed trying to get even. So she was embedded in our family to a very deep degree, that she knew she could just walk in this house anytime she wanted to. She didn't have to call. She just walked in if she wanted to. But the biggest thing about her is when she was here, there was no doubt she belonged. And that's where she was, at the softball field, in the university, in the athletic department. She belonged. And everybody that she came in contact with remembered her. Her legacy will always be the one here.
So what do you think she would be doing now? Do you think the I Dream Academy would be all systems go?
Absolutely.
Like, no, we'd have to make an appointment to see her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless you had food.
Thanksgiving dinner will bring her to your house again.
I'll never forget the Tupperware. It'll be forever in my brain. Jake didn't come. She sent her Tupperware.
Yeah, her Tupperware. She always had to take when she went.
All right, so
she was loved down here. There was never. This was her Southern Canadian home, and she knew that this is where she belonged. And I feel like that. Every coach is lucky to have one of her like her in their career, and I had mine. So every coach deserves one, and unfortunately, I used mine up already. The young lady made coaching fun.
So, Miss Kathy, do you know of the current status of the nonprofit? Is there a way that supporters of Janiva's mission can support?
I'm not sure. Down there, I think it kind of dissolved because no one was willing to take it over.
Okay. All right. So before we close, I want you all to, leave us with a parting shot. Whatever you want to say that you haven't had the opportunity to say, feel free. Sheree, you go ahead and go first.
I mean, I could just see her, though. I thought about her the other day because Sharada posted her children going to school for the first day, and those were her god babies, and she would have been right there to see them off, and I think about, like, even me just saying that, like, we would have had been penciled in to see her, but all these kids that we didn't have and all that, she'd make time for them. Yeah. She'd be at every game, or and so like I said, I think that's the one thing that just weighs heavy on me, is that I definitely want her dream to continue. It was so important for her. And so I got to find some of her strength to be able to maneuver all this stuff, to be able to do it.
All right, Coach Cooke.
Sheree, that would be tough shoes to fill right there. That's all I can tell you. She led the world in, I'm going to do this, and you better make sure that you get out of my way. And there was never a time anything she wanted to do was ever in doubt. And you miss her every day. You think about her all the time. But the number one thing is you feel her in your heart. That's what's most important to me, is that she's still in my heart. She's still in my memory. And I'm going to get through this whole thing without crying, okay? And I'm a hard-nosed old coach. So I'm going to make it.
And Miss Kathy.
Well, like Sheree said, it would be nice to see it brought back to life again down in the U.S., because that's where she was passionate wherever she went, but her passion is really in the U.S. And like Sheree said, I think it was when, working at the home there with Sharada, and then she went out and she got the job with youth villages. She's just seen so many hurt and torn children, and just saw that the system just wasn't working. And I'm sure she's really disappointed that, everyone that she had with her just kind of dropped it, like after she was done. Like after what had happened, she was gone. Unfortunately, like here where I am, like I can't continue it on. I don't have her contacts. And I know she wasn't afraid to go to anybody, whether it's a politician or who it was, to say what she needed to say. But for me, like Coach Cooke says, she's always on my mind. I think of her with everything that I do. I take her with me. I wear her helmet when I go. I have her bike. I wear her helmet when I go bike riding, and even when I take the grandchildren now, because I have some of her cycling clothes, they wear her cycling clothes. So she's with me wherever I go, especially when I'm on that bike. And yeah, it would be a dream come true for me to see something get started back in the U.S. again in her honor, regardless of how big or how small. But I'm sure it eventually start off small and eventually take off from state to state, because she did make an impact just in the trip going from Charlotte to San Diego. Never mind the trip coming back, but just the trip going, because of all the stops that she had to make to get there in the first place. But yeah, and all the interviews that she had and the people she spoke to, the people that she was in contact with, just for a matter of 5 minutes, seeing her name come back out and go back out there, I think there would be a lot of support. Who knows? You might even get Oprah and Ellen involved. I did send an email to Ellen, but I never heard anything back.
Well, hopefully tonight we made strides to get closer to making that happen. Coach Mark Cooke, I appreciate you. I appreciate me helping you enter the Zoom world.
I appreciate that too.
Sheree, long time buddy. We have plenty of memories. It's good talking to you. Miss that smile.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
No problem. Continued blessings to you and your family.
Thank you.
Miss Kathy, like your strength. I wish I could bottle it up and take a sip from it myself. It's empowering and uplifting. Continued prayers to you and your family as well.
Thank you.
Just know that, you have a family down here as well.
We know. Yeah, we know. We've always known that, and we always speak of that. We have families in both countries. So yeah, I'm always speaking of Sheree, Sharada, Coach Cooke, a lot of Janiva's other friends, and yeah, we're miles away, but we're never forgotten.
Right. Well, job well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for doing this.
No problem. Like I said, when we crossed paths at the memorial, I wanted to do it back then, but in a way, I'm kind of glad that it played out this way, where I had a platform created perfect for this opportunity. So,
perfect.
Janiva, you are forever in our hearts. You left an indelible mark. I still have some of our communications stashed away on Facebook and on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, not in my phone for text messages, but I still have those memories near and dear. So before we close, I want to make sure that we have a moment of silence for Janiva and for Jeffrey Turner as well. And for Stop, Look, and Listen, Winthrop edition. I'm your host, LaTroy Gardner. See you next week. Peace and blessings.